Hello, welcome to DevSecOps talks in 2025. We would like to wish you Happy New Year after long 2024 with almost 11,000 downloads. Today here, Paulina.
Andrey.
Mattias.
Yay, the hardest part is done.
You should have like sparkles coming up. You can do that with your MacBooks, right? You can do like fireworks.
You could add it in a post-production, and it matters because if everything goes according to the plan, you should be able to see it since it's 2025, new year, new thing. We're going to try to record this one and put it out in video. So if video is your thing, or if you have friends who prefer watching instead of just listening, you would be able to enjoy the lovely face of Mattias almost live.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Let's see how it goes. That's great.
Maybe you can spot a cat.
Yes.
Yeah, I kicked the cat out, actually.
One thing I should mention before we go, to everyone who listened the last episode, which was, I think, episode 72 or 73, I don't remember right now, that you probably downloaded thinking that you're going to hear AWS reInvent recap, and you heard something else, the episode about resource control policies. My fault. I'm sorry. I messed up the description of the episode because I thought that was the one. And I fixed it the day after when I realized what I did. But so right now in a podcast app, you should get the RCP, AWS Resource Control Policies episode, not reInvent recap. But if you feel tricked, if you was the one who downloaded the episode during the first day, I'm very sorry, and I will watch myself next time. It was a long time after the holiday we recorded, so I a little bit forgot. Because I remember we wanted to do the reInvent recap, but then we did something else. But for some reason, it stuck in my head. And I didn't check it before putting it out.
But it was good, right? Because I think there was a company hacked. I think it was S3 they had open publicly, and we talked about that.
It wasn't S3. No, it wasn't S3. So yes, we spoke about that, but it wasn't S3. You needed to. Was the possibility to do something with JavaScript API and then pull data through it. So you actually had to jump through some hoops. It wasn't trivial S3. And I saw multiple people apologizing about that.
I see.
Like people who thought it was S3. Actually, you know what? I have it here. In one of the newsletters. Here, that's what they say. The breach has that, but it was not. I wonder if I have the bigger description.
Because it was kind of funny. We talked about like locking down and saying like, okay, with these new tools, there are no excuses to have an unprotected S3 bucket lying around. Because now you can just enforce a policy that will lock them all down. And then 2 weeks later, you hear about the breach, data from a German car manufacturer leaked everywhere.
I have it here. So they describe the root cause as an exposed vulnerable Java Spring, not script, Java Spring application, which allowed a heap dump to be searched for credentials. So you basically could dump the memory of that application somehow, and then you could search for credentials in that memory dump. And then the discovered credentials could then be used to impersonate any user and export data from API. So it's not S3. It was harder, but it wasn't. So that someone discovered.
Okay.
That's why we think today episode gonna be important for you to be able to know how to behave in cases you face incident like this or any other incidents. With, for example, S3 buckets, Windows updates, as we had in the summer, which stopped half of the airports.
Oh yeah.
We have also other reasons with it, as Mate is running very interesting course about this topic, which is...
So I'm holding a course in incident response for from some students. So it's an interesting topic. When I first get the question, it was like incident response, and it was just like standards and things. But then I actually dug a little bit more in it, and I have seen some incident, during the time. So I hope that I
give us some
could.
examples. Tell us.
Yeah, so it depends. I've seen hacking incident. I did see one. We were running a small server with the web store. It was not my perfect work, but it was caused ransomware, right? So the whole store was shut down. It was just like one of those red pages. You need to send Bitcoin to this address, right? The lucky part, it was running WordPress with the WooCommerce. But I could log into the server. But the web folder was fully encrypted, right? Luckily, I had backup. So I just can remove it, add it to backup, and that's what people are not telling you. From ransomware, backup is the most important thing. But it was funny because I looked in the log as well, and I did see one request, coming into the VP admin, which is the admin page, from Tor node, right? That was it, and then it was just completely hacked.
I think they now do another thing, that they exfiltrate the data. They encrypt it, they exfiltrate the data, and then they threaten you to share the data publicly. I wouldn't trust them not to share it. If you pay,
they contact you to pay X amount of money. But there's no guarantee that they don't gonna share it anyway.
Yeah. So we've seen that when I worked before with card. I can't remember exactly, but they were like renting cars in like between France and Belgium with stolen cars, and they rented up to the opposite side of the border, right? And then for a month, right, with a fake card, usually like business card, because they don't have a limit. And then they can you just took the car and used it for a long time because nobody was looking for it.
Right.
Maybe in like robberies or things like that.
Have a different kind of incident to bring up. Actually, two types. So Mattias is bringing up like cybercrime attacks.
Yeah.
You might have your vendor failure. For instance, you are using the cloud provider, and there is something fishy going on there. I do remember like Kinesis outage in 2021, or was it 2020? I believe. Like there was a lot of people who was hit hard by that. And one more thing is a civil unrest kind of scenario where you cannot reach people. So we had a situation like we had one consultant in Kazakhstan. I think it was in 2022 where they had a protest of taxi drivers or something like that. And the government shut down the internet connectivity and we couldn't reach the person. I mean, we had no idea what's going on. If you have a failure of the public service, like for instance, you're disconnected from internet, there is some internet connectivity issue in your region, and you work in the office or you cannot get to the office, there is something going on. So how do you continue your business operations if you cannot get people to the office where the assets are? So that's kind of those type of incidents.
Yeah.
In Denmark, very loud incident, I think, for like 6-7 years ago was one with Maersk where people were pulling plugs from the wall pretty much during the incident. So
that was not Petya incident.
Yeah, but that was a big one, right? They were just pulling computer out of the rack or like unplugging things, right? I think actually, according to that incident, they could recover. I don't know if it's true. You have to help me here, but actually, everything that was online was encrypted, right? But it was one computer in like Africa that wasn't online because they have it was running some internet. So as soon as that computer was going online, it would have like got ransomware. So they managed to isolate that computer and go fetch it and bring it to Denmark, and then they can start recovering from that. And I think it was messed, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, Maersk was get hit very, very hard, but it was like the operation, like Russian operation against Ukraine, basically, which spilled over to other countries.
Yeah. So it's funny, but I mean, most of the incident is not caused by these things. Most are like we that work with IT do something. I remember I was working. We got a high load on the website is going down. We're trying to troubleshoot. We can see that the connection is stacking up on the database and production. It's like, okay, what's going on here? You try and ask, and then you get a ping from a developer like, yeah, I did change the database, but I just updated the index. That shouldn't have any effects on the production.
No.
No, are you sure about that? Yeah, it was just table lock for hours, and those hours things were down. That's the most incident. But in this course, to make it easy to understand, I've broken up the course in 3 parts. Like pre-incident, what you should do to be ready for incident. Do as much as possible, so when the incident occur, you have the best foundation to stand on to handle the incident. The other part is when you're in incident, the storm is hitting, how you should react. Because when you're in incident, the words in the people can't come out, and you need to handle the incident when it happens. And the third is, of course, after incident, how we cool down. Some of us may work in an organization when you have reporting, you have to call different agency or government and report what's doing, and how you also what you learn from the incident and bring it back to the beginning. So I split it up, and I think we can maybe focus now on the pre, how you.
Right. Yeah, that would be a beefy episode if we try to cover everything. Then we will not be able to, explore it too deep. We will only scratch the surface. You said you had 20 hours of content for that course, didn't you?
Yeah, the course was for 4 weeks, I think, and I spent I think 6 hours every week just talking, and then I have a course documentation for trying to work
That's
with it.
That's quite a bit of material.
Yeah, most is from, of course, experience, how it's also this, you know this as well. You like your job the most when you're incident, because then it's really it really counts what you're doing. Here's a test for your knowledge. Really, it's you're running a sprint or doing a race. This is, you need to fix something kind of quick under pressure. So it's kind of fun working during the incident, but it's also really demanding. So it's both ways.
It's also interesting go on. It's also interesting from a technical point of view. If something is failing, you can, it can be on the incident level, or it can be on lower level when we can just not make something work. You need to debug, you need to actually make your brain work versus working more automatically as usual. So to get more creative.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we dive in, Mattias, I just wanted to summarize why it's important. What would be the driver? For instance, if someone in their organization want to initiate that work, how they could sell that to the business, or talk to the business about it. So, what would be the driving forces behind this work? Why it's needed? Why it's important? How do you talk to the business people about that?
Yeah, it's 2 legs, right? I would like to go to the business people and say this is for our users, right? We want our users to be secure. We don't want to leak their information, and we want our platform to be up all the time so a user can use it, right? That's why we do incident and training of those to prepare and be able to support our users. But there's also a reality, and the reality is it's coming a lot of security standards that you need to follow, like NIS2, you're doing DORA, you're doing all of those standards
SOC 2 usually requires HIPAA.
SOC 2,
usually have HIPAA. Something about disaster recovery.
Exactly. They all mandate incident response, disaster recovery, business continuity. Yeah. All that is always in the standard. So it's always a big part. So if that's also a big factor today, that NIS2 is going to hit hard a lot of companies, and then they need this response as well. But for me, it would be nice if companies just go you know what, let's protect our user and our business, and let's make it be up all the time. And that's why we do incident. Because
I guess another part of it is SLA, SLO. If you have contractual SLA, SLO, Like if it's written in your contract, like if you're in B2B, for instance, like the cloud provider, like AWS tells you like S3 SLA is 9999. One God knows how many nines. And then you can technically convert that into days and hours, how long it could be out. And if it's out for longer, you can claim money, you can bring them to court by breaking the contract. So if you have this kind of contract, then incident response preparation, so you can recover faster, is very, very important, and that would protect your business.
Yeah. And to summarize it, you want to build like your incident response that falls back. So you have like a flow, and then in the end you learn something from it, and you take that learning and you start implementing it in the beginning, so that the company learns from incident and can improve. If you don't do that part, like the learning part and improving part, or like be ready for changing what you're thinking to, then you can better skip it, right? Then there's no point of doing incident. There's no point of setting up like an incident response, like, oh, we are good, let's never go back to this. So like feeding back the information from the incident, or from your training of the incident, or what you did when you looked at your disaster recovery plan, feeding that back to the organization and improve. That's the key for making a secure platform.
Right.
So you talked about the fundamental, but if you're a company and you're like, oh shit, we need to start looking over like how we should handle like incident. The first thing is also like you need to do like, what's the risk, right? What are we facing here, right? It's good to have a proper risk assessment in any time, right? To look it over. And now we can focus on IT, but if you're a physical company, you want to look at the physical aspects as well, right? But IT, look at the risk that we have. We have like external hackers, we have hacks from internal, we have supply chains, we have all that. And then look where they are. And how do you know how you measure it, like the risk versus the company? Do you have any, how do you measure it? Do you have any ideas?
It's probability, impact, and what there was a third thing.
Yeah, it's like a reputation as well, right? You would usually check for like the company's like reputation. I mean, how much would this hack meant that nobody would trust you ever again, right? Money, of course, right? Oh, you're gonna have a fine. We're never gonna get out of this, right? We're screwed. And it can also be like work, right? This incident means that we have to change our location. The whole data set to burn up. Like we need to build a new one. Yeah, we're not going to be able to hire that people and build a new data center within the time that our customer leaves us. So you bench it in these three categories, and then you look at the risk and see how much they will impact like the levels, right? You should do like low, medium, level. So if an external hacker would attack you, like what would the damage be? Would it be like the whole data center burns down? Okay, that would be a problem, and so on. So that would be the first step. Have you done any risk assessment?
You also need awareness for people, because sometimes people are not aware, like, oh, we need it. Why do we need it? How do you make people?
Yeah, do you mean for, yeah, exactly. So I mean, one of the, let me come back to that question, okay? Sorry, I need to come back to that. So there are three things that I want you to look at, like the three pillars. So, but have you done a risk assessment in your, have you seen one? Yeah, you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
So usually it rotates around risk score, right? So you take all your risks, you calculate the risk score, or whatever it's called, and you calculate that by multiplying impact on probability. The higher it is, the higher the risk score, and you work with your top three, for instance, because you cannot address everything.
Exactly. So that's what you do with the same with the other things. You need to like prioritize, like what are the top, because you can't do them all. So the risk assessment is all about finding risk and then like which is the one we should really work on, and then just don't do them all now and then continue. Like, and when you have the risk plan, you have some things that will help you in the company in case of incident. Like you have your business continues. I mean, those are the ones that the business people will like how would the business continue working if, as you said, only if like we lose different people because they have no internet connection? How we can continue working? How we continue working if a data center is out? Those sort of things, like how would the business survive? And the other one is for data. How can you disaster recovery plan? How will you recover to a new foundation, right? That's the other part. And now we have the basic, I would say, in documentation and like process. You have the risk assessment, you have some business continuity, you have a disaster recovery plan. So that's the like the base documents that you may start with. Okay.
Would you include also appointing the incident response team and stuff like that?
Yes.
Right?
So after that, it's time to have like an incident response plan, right? And there are like a lot of templates for different plans. And actually, I will Google up one now. So the incident response plans there are many like it, but they all function the same, right? You should like detect the risk. You should determine the scope of the risk. You should contain the risk, and then you should feed it back to the beginning to learn from the risk. Right? That's the incident response plan. It could be more letters in this, and actually in this response plan, you try to add like people in it. And you know what always missing in the incident response plan that I would encourage people to add?
Tell us.
Details?
No, not details. It's a person.
Person.
How come?
No, you need to have someone to like manage communication between the people that are working and all the rest, right? Communication, right? Someone that like, okay, I will do the communication in between. Otherwise, there will be 1,000 people poking at you. You have been in an incident. You know how it is. You get the Slack messages.
Is it done?
Is it done? When can it be up? Can it be up in 3 hours? What can I say to client? All that. And you know, right? And it just gets messy. So when you do the incident like response plan and you have people like this is the people that like the group that we call like solvers, so like they work on the incident, also have someone that can take the role as like the communication person. The people ask this person, and that person will go to the people that's solving it and communicates, right?
I think what we could add there, so you have something going on, there is a problem, right?
Yeah.
You start to triage, you have your triage team on that, ideally appointed in advance, so someone who detects someone incident triage team. And then, as Mattias said, there should be a person responsible for assessing the business impact of the incident. And that person ideally could manage communication between the incident response team while like focused on getting it analyzed, contained, resolved. But also it's about like there is a communication outside. So you need to have a channel to communicate outside. So it's a way to reach out to users if you're in B2C, right? Something is you need to have a possibility to reach out to users. And usually in B2C, you have a direct channel because you have emails or stuff like that. It's actually harder in B2B because quite often the communication details are somewhere in the contracts and you don't have them handy. So having like the communication plan, like we are down, who do we reach out in our partners who are dependent on us? How do we tell them? Or like, do we have the email or like mailing lists that they follow from where they can get those news? And then another thing here is you want to quarantine the media sites that your employees should know that they should avoid posting details outside of the company to social media sites. They might not have the full details, they might not have full understanding the incident, and they might mischaracterize it. And some of those mischaracterizations might lead to the legal issue for the company. Like, for instance, people might use word breach without really understanding what that means, and it has a very particular legal meaning. So not every incident is a breach.
No.
So
Yeah, but here you
and you
also
really
have
have to be mindful
communication.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, here you also have communication out of the company, but you also need a good communication within the company or the
Yeah,
organization,
exactly.
because very
Yeah.
often you have team of engineers fixing incident. Then you have person who needs to communicate outside to the customers or partners, but you need also someone who can, in an effective way, communicate to the management, and then management also
Yeah.
doesn't misunderstood or doesn't miscommunicate it outside, because that also can have similar consequences, as you mentioned, employees talking to the media.
Yeah, and then you have a developer asking like, when can I deploy? Can I deploy now? Is it ready? So yeah, communication, it would resolve so much things, and it's really important. So like on like the wording of things is also really important. For example, if you do like DORA, you have to send them a report within a couple of hours if you do like a breach, right?
Yeah.
So if you announce by mistake that is a breach, they can come after you, right?
It's
As
the
well,
same
right?
with
And think,
HIPAA, I
yeah,
would say.
yeah,
HIPAA is the same. Like there is a certain threshold
yeah,
where you're supposed to report, but that needs to be qualified
yeah,
as a
yeah,
breach, but it maybe
yeah,
not. So,
yeah,
like, if the PHI is not affected, like, if you have intruder in the system, but they haven't reached the PHI, for instance, that's
yeah,
different. It's
yeah.
intrusion, but it's not breach.
Exactly. It can't be proved. Yes. So then, and the communication is so important. So then you have like your incident response plan, but we want to like learn from the incident and feed it back. And for that, like you need to have some sort of incident reporting format, right? It's like describe what had happened in the incident, right? It's really simple, like what happened, how was it resolved, how was the system feeling before. It could be interesting, but also add like a level, right? Where the highest, whatever you pick, is like, this is real, we got hacked, to the one that's kind of like, okay, it was an incident, but it didn't impact that much, it's a lower level. So you have that as well. And then, of course, the most important part, what did we learn? Point that back to something and make sure the changes are implemented in the organization, right?
Maybe a final part. I don't know how much stuff you left for the preparation, but I think it's exercises, right? So many frameworks, compliance frameworks, require you not only have the plan but also exercise it on a regular basis. It could be annual, it could be every half a year, and then document execution, like who was present, what was the scenario, and how you did during that. So like what you discovered, how you reflected on your performance, and so on and so on. And I would
Did you
say
learn?
those exercises, I would say those exercises are very valuable because you usually don't think in this crisis mode. And when you start to think, you start to see the weaknesses in your systems and your communication, maybe the too much dependency on one person. If that person is unavailable, what you're going to do. So doing those exercises might sound boring, but I would say it's very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
It's like, going for a run when you don't feel like. You feel better when you do it. So it's like one of those things. You need to start doing it even if you don't want to, and you will feel better after.
So one more point is that technology is changing. So your DRE might be outdated one you've done half a year ago in certain points. So that's something good to include. I think some companies also prepare for it by having Chaos Monkey, like Netflix, for example. So it creates incidents, and then you can see where your system has the failing points and issues. You can try to fix it beforehand.
Yeah, and trying to like the learning, always make like a run book or playbook from the learnings. So you have a document, can do it again, can even maybe trigger things, and then you can see things like, oh, we're getting attacked by IP, and then I go to this web page and look up the IP to see what country from. Those things can be easily scripted, right? So you have actually some tools that can help you with the incident as well. Oh, now I get a ping from this IP. Okay, let me run this tool and see where it's coming from. And we have that as well. So I think we're coming out of time. I'm gonna
Hold on. You mentioned run book. What's run book?
So So what's the difference between a playbook and a runbook?
They're both books, and the
book.
first part of the world is different.
Yeah. So the description could be different, so don't take my wording for it. But a playbook is more general, right? We're using this kind of tool set when we're doing. But the runbook is more like step-to-step guide how you do things. So it would be if you have incident and the database is out of disk, the runbook would be like log into the backup, log into MySQL server, go to this folder, delete the log files, see how much disk is available, log out. Right? That's
runbook, basically a step-by-step thing telling you what to do if something goes wrong.
Exactly. Super good to have. Write them, especially when you do incident.
Playbook. What's the playbook?
Yeah, it's a more like higher like description, if I correctly. I mean, somebody using the playbook name as a runbook, but it's more like we are using SQL servers in our data center. Those like wider spectra.
All right. So it's more like explanation of what's going on.
Yeah, it could be like in this company. Yeah, in this company we treat everybody equal, like most of them.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. But that's different. But now we're gonna give you three things that you will look in your company, right? To make them a little bit secure. If you can look, you can't do everything. We said that with the risk, right? But these three, I think you start with these three, right? The first, endpoints. What kind of endpoints do you have, and what do they do?
What is endpoint?
Something where data comes in, right? The endpoint where you get data, right?
It's not my laptop.
It could be. You're adding data from your laptop.
That's my phone.
Yeah, I think you can try this as long as before. But look at things where you have connection. Look at them. Where are they? You can do if you want to add your laptop, add that. But like web application where they come in, management, you maybe have dependency on third party. Look over the endpoints. Make sure that you know them and know what they're doing. That will help, right? The middle one, training. As you said, Paulina, training, right? Train people. I mean, I talked about security training during lunch now, and you know, when you talk with a developer and they're building an application and you're building your Python and store it in a database, and the developer thinks like, oh, okay, I have 10 lines now. What happens if I have 20,000 lines? How should I build my application then? That's something that developer learns, you know, by building and you're working with it. It should be the same with security. When you build the application, like I'm getting data here. What can happen if the data is not as I expect it to be? If I get the 1 gig blob here, or if I get like the other type of data, train them. It's the same thing when you build the application. That like understanding what you can do with code, and especially code from untrusted things like clients.
I think training, yes, but not only for developers, also for management people, at least for awareness that it's important and they need to spend some part of the budget and time on it.
Oh, yes. It's always the weakest link, right? You see a lot of them. Training. I think I think I'm trying to do the same training as my kids comes when they want to buy a new like trousers or shirts from some store they see on TikTok. You go to the store, you look it up, like, is this really valid? Like, oh, it's only been around for half a year. Okay, I can't find any like support email, or like you do some due diligence on that store right before you buy that things now. Like to do some checks. You want to bring that to more things. Be a little bit more like clever when you.
What was the third thing? You said you had 3 things. So what was the third thing?
The third one is like
training and
update your stuff, right? Keep them updated. We can't protect against all of the threats out there, but if we're getting help from everybody that's doing developing. But what other companies is doing is they're updating their stuff to make them more secure, and our responsibility is keeping pace with them. Like keep updating, try to be on the latest.
And
and
I
find
think we
handbooks.
have one point that applies to everyone. So everyone needs to look into security, because your system doesn't gonna be free of possibilities of failing or getting the incident, but you can try to decrease it.
Yeah.
Let me throw something unexpected here.
Okay.
What we discussed applies to companies, but it also applies in a personal life. I mean, you could take those lessons and apply it in a personal life. Like, for instance, what if something happens to me? If I'm permanently unavailable, like, will my wife know how to access my system, like my one password to get to all my passwords, so she can log into the system, like transfer money from my bank account, or like, if she needs to do something, like, would she know where my stuff is? Like, do I know where? Like, how do I do with your stuff? Like, then you have the same notifications. Like, do we have all the contacts of the parents and other people who need to know, right? If something happens. So I also do disaster recovery planning for your family.
Yeah.
And finally, like a small warning, like with all the AI generated stuff, I mean, like audio and video becoming very, very, very believable. And what people doing nowadays is they aggregate all your social media, feed it to AI, and AI can produce believable content out of it, like believable phishing attacks out of this, based on facts that they collect from the social media and all other sources. It was a lot of work before. Now with AI aggregation, it's becoming very, very easy. So those attacks becoming more often. So what you could do is you could develop the passphrase in your families, share it with each other, like something. So if you're not sure, like if someone calling you, urgently asking for money or do something, just have a second factor of verification saying, like, what is the passphrase? And if they unsure, reach out to the same person using a different channel and ask if they're actually trying to reach out to them. So
people can even use your phone numbers right now. I recently read about the incident, so that someone tried to, use someone's mother's phone number to try to get money out of. So.
SIM swapping is easy, and it's people do it all the time. So take those lessons, apply them in a business setting, but you could also apply them in a personal setting, and I would encourage you to do so. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay curious. Stay safe.
You have been listened to DevSecOps Talks with Mattias, Andrey, and Paulina. For notes and information, please visit devsecops.fm. Thanks for tuning in.